Welcome back to the Wizard King podcast. This is your host, Zico. And I got another one for you guys. Another great episode. I haven't been doing this, so I thought I'd start doing it. Please hit that like button and that subscribe button. And if you like the content, please share with a friend. But today, so we're going to start off today with reacting to a video. This video is a video that Jordan Peterson had put out recently. So this video is titled Doctors and Psychotherapists, Butchers and Liars. This is an interesting name.
I'm in Bucharest, Romania, about 2/3 of the way through the European leg of my Beyond Order tour, which seems to be going very nicely. I've spent some time over the last few weeks, it's June 16th, 2022, by the way, writing a couple of articles for the Telegraph, one of which I'm going to read to you today, called Butchers and Liars. We are sacrificing our children on the altar of a malicious far-left ideology. The medical profession is crumbling in response to radical transgender activists.
You know what's interesting here, just right off in the beginning, is his choice of words. He said sacrifice, and this is reading an article, but the article says sacrificing our children to this cult of transgenderism. And it's interesting because, it made me think of two things. First of parents, the fact that parents are choosing to do this, right? And it's like, well, how are parents choosing to sacrifice their kids? No parent in their right mind would choose to do that. We come from a people that used to sacrifice their children on idols. It's in history. It's human beings did it. So it's not, and they literally sacrificed, like they killed the kid, right? And sacrificed it to this god of whatever god it was they were sacrificing it to. Nowadays, we're not killing them, but it is, in the hopes to appease and to show that we are, with the whatever, we are allowing our kids to be exposed. Not all parents, but a lot of parents are allowing their kids to be exposed or to be indoctrinated or recommended, like, hey, maybe you're feeling the way you're feeling because, you're not in the right body. And I mean, there's probably not all the conversations that go on like that, but I mean, these are kids, And then second, it's something you'll hear me say repeatedly, like, I say it all the time. One point, the one difference, it's probably a couple, but the few, but the one main difference between us in 2022 and people back in the day when the Bible was written, right? So the Bible was written over thousands of years, or 40 different authors, and I believe one main author, God, guiding these different authors. But anyways, there's a bunch of books put together, right? But over those thousands of years, as it was written, only one thing has changed. I keep saying one, but the biggest thing has changed. The difference is technology. What we have today. When as the Bible was written and the different books that were written written down, they didn't have phones. Because if they did, and computers and stuff, they probably would have wrote it down on a scroll. So technology is the thing that's changed, but the thing that makes the Bible relevant today is our hearts are still the same. That's what I mean by our hearts. Let's look at an example in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 30 through 31. What I mean by our hearts are still the same. The people of Judah have done evil in my eyes, declares the Lord. They have set up their detestable idols in the house that bears my name, and have defiled it. They have built the high places of Topeth in the valley of Ben Hinnom to burn their sons and daughters in the fire. Something I did not command, nor did it enter my mind. So this is God speaking through the prophet Jeremiah to the people. And he's like, man, you guys are sacrificing your sons and daughters in the fire, right? Throwing their sons and daughter in fire. Which I'm not God, but which I'm repeating what he said. He didn't even have that in his mind. That's so insane to me. It's crazy. Because, a lot of people will say, well, why does God allow, all these bad things if he's such a good God? And, the actions of human beings should not dictate the goodness or the evilness, whatever, of God. My actions do not dictate whether God is good or not. It dictates the type of person I am, right? But God specifically set out his standards and the way he believes that we should live the best way for us without hurting ourselves, like ways that can prevent us from hurting ourselves or prevent us from hurting others, right? So it's interesting, though, going back to the scripture, like the Israelites were sacrificing their own kids to this God that was created by other humans, right? And it's interesting is I'm fascinated because, nowadays, let's look at this concept of if God is such a good God, why does he allow this evil, right? A common phrase, I'm going to make a short video about this specific topic soon, but a common phrase that you hear, to each his own, that originated from God. What do you mean, well, that originated from God? What are you talking about? God gave us free will. Now, he gave us some standards, and he said, hey, don't do this, because if you do this, this can happen. This is a consequence of this action. It's up to you, buddy. Your choice. Do as you please. And if you do this action, this is the consequence of this action. It originated from God. Yes, we have been doing this for centuries. For centuries, we have been, we get rid of God, right? And then we create our own gods, or we follow ideologies, or follow nowadays a political ideology. Well, whatever it is that you follow, that you pour all your energy into, that you believe in, that you're fighting for. If you don't have a God that you believe in, that becomes, if it's not you, that thing becomes your God, right? It becomes your idol, becomes the thing that you think the most about. The thing that, now most of us nowadays, we don't get up and, I heard somebody say this once, we don't get up and go and bow down to the God in the morning and put our incense, you know what I mean? But we, in our own way, we still do, we wake up and go on our phones. First thing we do in the morning. Check our emails. We don't, and that's a whole nother thing, but I don't want to get too deep into that, but, we have our ways of acknowledging what's important to us, what's showing what's important to us. And, when we do these things, our thinking, if these things are, it depends on these, it doesn't depend, because usually what happens in these ideologies, it starts off with good, right? Like good intentions, but they lay a path to hell. And what I mean by that is our things become more perverse and perverse as they go. So for example, for this transgender movement and LGBTQ plus T5-6, that movement as well. I try to do it with a straight face. I'm sorry. Too much. But it started off like, hey, we shouldn't marginalize, and all these things are good, right? Like we shouldn't look at them a certain way, whatever. All right, get that. It shouldn't be evil, bully, all these things. But now it's become more perverse. Now you're pushing things on us, and you're pushing things in this, and you're doing this, that. Look at the political ideologies. It starts off with like, hey, we're all, we're gonna work with each other. And have you seen politics over the years? It's gotten more perverse and perverse. This is just what happens when, in politics at one point wasn't this big thing where people gravitated to it, and it wasn't like their ideology. They had their beliefs, but they could still coexist with people that had different beliefs. Nowadays, you can't. Why? Because it's become like a god. It's become the thing you come to sacrifice to. We are literally doing this over and over again. Literally, like if you look at what Jordan talking about, reading from this article, how as we're sacrificing our children to this altar, right, of transgenderism that he's reading. I mean, isn't that kind of similar to us allowing technology to raise our kids? And I have 4. And I get it. It's the easiest thing to do is to stick an iPad in front of them. But isn't that kind of sacrificing your kid to technology? Even if you're not, you're not with this transgender stuff, but you're kind of allowing this technology to raise them instead of you, because you need your time. Oh, you're just so stressed. Mental health. You have all these excuses now. But why we do it? But isn't it the same thing? Let's continue with the video.
There's good evidence that many ancient societies sacrificed children to their gods. Parents in ancient Phoenician colonies in Carthage, Sicily, Sardinia, and Malta slew their offspring prior to cremating them, hoping that the gods would hear their voices and bless them. We are rightly appalled by this, though sometimes I wonder whether we understand child sacrifice far more than we'd like to admit. I saw a video the other day featuring an American surgeon bragging that he had performed more than 3,000 double mastectomies on young women who had paid for gender reassignment. Individuals confused, one might say encouraged, by those who profit from it into believing that their adolescent emotional trials can be cured and happiness reign forever if they subject themselves to this brutal practice. And it is brutal, a process that often includes not only the aforementioned mastectomies, but other appalling surgical processes. Orchiectomy, that's castration in blunter language, the removal of the uterus, the demolition of the musculature of the forearm to make what is not a penis, but must be referred to as such. All of that. For someone purporting to be a physician to perform this on children, to me at least, seems like something worthy of a prison sentence. Whatever happened to the doctrine expressed by the ancient language as primum non nocere, first, do no harm? The Hippocratic Oath has been replaced by a delusion, a belief that can be summarized as, by blocking the puberty of children and then surgically altering them, we are only restoring what is theirs by right. A child's feelings are the final arbiters of their reproductive destiny, and any attempt to contest their gender identity risks increasing their proclivity for suicide. Lies. Then, butchery. Changing standards. Psychologists, those in my own personal field of medicine, have also surrendered to this groupthink. The American Psychological Association's Task Force on Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Transgender and Gender Nonconforming People, TGNC, insists that psychologists and other professional counselors offer trans-affirmative care, starting with such niceties as displaying TGNC affirmative resources in waiting areas. Practitioners are also asked to examine how their language, e.g., use of incorrect pronouns and names, may reinforce the gender binary in overt or subtle and unintentional ways. These guidelines first read like a manual of indoctrination written by Marxist ideologues.
It doesn't make sense to me. We have $30 trillion in debt here in the United States of America. China is buying up the country because we owe them a lot of money, right? It's one of the countries we're in debt to. And so because we're not able to pay, they got the term pay the piper. We're not able to pay, so they're liquidating a lot of that. They're buying up a lot of land. I think Roger Stone, I think he was like Trump's former something. I don't know, but he was on the PBD podcast recently, and he mentioned that they have 300,000 acres of land and this is not just the only piece of land that they own, but one of the pieces of land that they own in Wyoming. 300,000 acres. But you don't hear that in the news. We have crime that's rising in cities across America. You don't hear that in the news. Now they're considering gang violence, mass shootings, when it's a gang versus a gang, shooting at each other. And so they're putting that in the category of mass shooting, when originally you think of mass shooting, you think of innocent people being killed by a gunman or, somebody driving a car, or whatever it may be, whatever weapon, whatever thing they choose to turn into a weapon against innocent people. But now you have them including gang violence in that. I wonder what that's going to do to the crime numbers. The percent, like the way crime is viewed, is that going to be removed too? You have, we have reform issues going on where people are getting arrested, and there's some people that probably shouldn't have a high bail anyways, but there's a lot of them that should, and they're going in, and then an hour later coming out, going right back to the street to hurt more people. We have so much problems going on here. I know we're gonna print some more money and send billions of dollars and to other countries, and we're not gonna focus on our problems here at home. No, we're not gonna do that. No, we're gonna focus on turning kids that may feel a little weird because they're 6 and they don't know who they are because of what they've seen on the Disney and all these different networks that are allowing this thing to be infused to teach our kids about sex, which, at that age, you don't need to know about that. Am I crazy here? But we want to focus on that. That's the issue. We want to appease to the 3%, if that, of the population that has these real feelings, these real things that they go through, where they feel like they're this and they feel like they're that, and we want to change the whole system for the 3% of people, instead of just directly addressing those 3% of people in their respective communities, cities, wherever they're at, and trying to help them. No. Let's make everybody like them. Because everybody got mental health. Everybody got problems. Everybody's feeling a little, fluidy at times. So we gotta make sure the kids are good. We gotta start with the kids. Let's start with the kids. We don't want to focus on just trillions of dollars we're in debt. The trillions of dollars that we're gonna start paying possibly, or our kids are gonna, or our kids' kids. The trillions of dollars that can cause this country to be taken over by dictatorship. The trillions of dollars that can cause us to lose the freedom that we all enjoy. Remember the Uber Eats, the Lyft that we all enjoy so much? But no, let's focus on transgenderism and not focus on becoming one country, coming together and really attacking the issues, trying to make it better for the next generation of Americans that's gonna grow up here. No, let's not solve the issues at home. No. We can't do that. Let's look over across the seas. Let's look over there. The infrastructure problems that we have. No, let's not focus on that. I mean, this is wild. This is wild. The Bible talks about so in the kingdom, in the church, when you're choosing leaders, one of the things, especially specifically, it was talking about elders, and it talks about a certain standard that they should have, right? Like their homes should be in order, that their kids be in a certain way, that they raise their kids in a certain way. And you guys might think, what, like forcing them to... No. To raise them as respectable humans, but also they should, if you're living and you're loving them correctly, and they see the church and the kingdom the way that they're experiencing, the way God intended it to be, they'll probably want to join it, right? And so this is one of the standards, having the kids be also disciples, Christians, whatever word you want to use. It's the same meaning. And then they can be an elder in the church, in the kingdom. And then they can do these certain roles. But why? Why have these standards? I don't understand. Why? Why have these standards? Is because if you can take care of your home, which used to be the nucleus, the family used to be the nucleus of America, right? If you can take care of that, an organization, a corporation, government, America is just a bigger version of that. It used to be. Now we're so divided. You can't put together two people from different political parties without there being fire, without there being a crazy attack. I mean, you look at what happened when the Roe versus Wade got reversed, and they gave the states back the power. I mean, these Supreme Court judges they have their lives being threatened, their families being threatened. We have gun problems here, right? But instead of trying to dive in and look to see, okay, what are some applicable, like real life things that we can do to really help the gun situation in America? No, let's write a quick bill and hey, make everybody happy. Yeah, we're good, right? We see we did something. We did guns. You see, we made it harder. Yeah. Criminals don't need gun laws. Good American citizens that follow the law are the ones that are affected by gun laws. We gotta look at everything, right? When it comes to that. But no, let's focus on indoctrinating our kids, and I can't even say the word that he used. That's happening to little girls. Like, this is crazy. Like, we're chopping peanut. I don't know. I probably should bleep that out because I don't want YouTube to tax me. But we're chopping little boys. We're changing little girls, their sexes, and what are we doing? What's going on? There has to be some change. There has to be. We got to focus here on home. If you're in America, this is home. We have to focus, because if we don't, what we have, this easy life that a lot of people experience, and when I say easy, I mean we have AC most, like we have cars or we have bikes, like we have Uber Eats, we have all these different things at our disposal. And yeah, we may not have all the money to access these things, but we have an easy life compared to some of my family in Haiti, right? We have easy lives if you compare to those in Haiti. But all these, I should say, I'm sorry, not easy, luxuries, I should say. Sorry. That's I think that's a better way of describing it. We have luxuries that they don't experience over there in third world countries. Let's continue with the video.
And second, like a document designed to undermine and destroy the practice of therapy itself. But at an alarming rate, these guidelines have transformed themselves into punitive laws governing what a psychologist or counselor may say and think in relation to their clients. Let me make myself perfectly clear. Speaking as a professional, whether in America, Britain, or anywhere, it is not the place of a therapist to affirm or conversely to deny the identity of anyone whom they admit into their care.
Do you hear what he said? It's not that person's job to affirm or deny. Isn't that interesting?
People come to see a therapist often after long and painful deliberation because they are suffering, confused, or both. The job of that therapist is to listen, to question, and to proceed with due caution, neither providing cheap advice and thereby stealing their clients' successes or heaping failure upon them, nor assuming special knowledge of the proper outcome for a given individual. There is simply no way I would ever tell a 15-year-old adolescent that she is absolutely correct if sometimes she feels more masculine than feminine, however that feeling might emerge, and that if she feels that surgery is the answer, then recommend hormones that day. I would instead spend many weeks, even perhaps many months or years, listening to her unwrap her story, using caution as my watchword, and help her to come to some thorough and well-developed understanding of both her autobiographical history and her destiny. That is not affirmation, and neither is it denial. How could I possibly dare to do either when someone has come to me because they are mixed up and desperate, a state of twinned experience indicating a profound confusion about identity itself?
Man, that's right there. That the way we're gonna stop right there, but the issue, I love what he said, and this is something he's always believed right here. But this last statement here that we listened to, in rule number 9 of 12 rules of life, which he spent years and years on in writing, he talked about the importance of listening. And how that he even talked about in his book, he talked about an example where a woman, a client that he's been seeing for a while, said, she came to him and said, "Hey, I think I was raped." And in his mind, he's like, "Oh, snap, this is okay." But in his head, he was like, all right. He was like, he first thought, what is going on that she feels, because she was single, she goes to bars all the time. She's shared with him the experience she's had with men. And so this popped up, it's popped up out of nowhere, it seemed like. But then he thought about what was going on at that time. At that time was the beginning of the Me Too movement, right? And so when you look at at that, then he said, okay, well, I don't know what she went through. So all he did was listen, ask questions, and try to help her come to the conclusion, did this happen or did it not? And he even said at the end of it, by the time that he didn't get to really finish because the controversy that came up with over there in Canada, he went viral and all that, which kind of affected his private practice. But he was more confused than ever, and she was as well. Like he didn't come to a conclusion by the time that stuff happened, But that's how complicated these things are, right? Like these things, when I mean complicated, like they're not very complicated in, I guess, I don't know if solving is the correct word, but the one thing that we have to really look at here is it's not really solving, right? Are we trying to solve? It's, I guess, just trying to find a path to a healthier version of that person. How do we get there, right? Like if somebody comes to us with a problem, instead of providing, and this is hard, something I've had to learn, and I'm continually, it's hard to apply because sometimes, especially as a man, you want your problem fixer, like, like by design, like you just want to take the tools and, all right, where do you need me to go? But a lot of times you need to just listen and you ask questions. You kind of help that person come to a solution. And that's difficult, especially in close relationships, because you just want to, well, you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's not easy, but it is easy to shut up and just listen, right? It's easy to do that because that's just controlling you. And then you can ask questions because you're listening, right? So you're like, hey, why did this? Oh, why did that? Oh, why did this? Right? And so it's a process though. And which leads me to this next part that I want to talk about is that how do we bring order to the chaos within this country? Because that right there, I mean, there's over 330 million people in this country, in America. It's like, how do we even do that? Well, let's look at it, right? Because it seems chaotic, it seems complicated. It's like, it's impossible. No, there's no way that we can bring order to this country. Well, let's sit back and think about this. Let's do a practice. Imagine the Earth's tilt. The Earth is tilted, and if you didn't know, now you know. Find a YouTube video. All right. Anyway, so the Earth's tilt, the movement, and it moves in reference to the sun, right? And so there's a certain distance from the sun and the moon, and because of the way it's the tilt and how fast it moves and the distance from the sun, we're not too close to where we burn to death, or we're not too far where we freeze to death, right? We're like at the perfect balance, right? And it's a very simple but complicated balance, if that makes sense, because it could, anything could probably throw it off. Maybe, I don't know how it all works, all the intricacies of it, but you think about that, right? Now, even do this. If you have the opportunity, wherever you're living, step outside your front door of your home, apartment door, whatever, and observe your surroundings. Now, if you're inside an apartment building, maybe look out a window. But if you're in the city, you'll probably see a lot of activity due to the amount of people you're around. And if you're more rural, it may be quiet, but then just look up in the sky. You'll see clouds, or maybe the sky is clear. You see a few birds or whatever. But it'll be better if you're in a rural area, if you could look up when you can see the stars, like in the evening. Oh, it's crazy. Because you see, it's madness, right? But why do I ask you to do this? If you have the opportunity to do this, to observe your surroundings. Why? chaos. It's just none of it you control. It's happening as you're happening. It's that star is sitting there, maybe, or moving. I don't know what it's doing, but it's there while you're there on the ground and on Earth looking at it. Those cars are moving with other people inside them in these lanes that were created by other humans, probably listening to different music or podcasts within their like completely different lives. But though it may seem chaotic, there's order. And so if there can be order, we can bring the chaos in this country to order. But I think one of the biggest things, I mean, there's a lot of things we could look at. One of the places I think we should start is the morale. You know, back in the day, you hear stories of people, there was a lot of handshake agreements. Now with the desire, and this is a con, I guess, kind of. This is a con of materialism, or not materialism, but capitalism. Capitalism in itself isn't evil because it's just a concept, right? It's just, but humans, our hearts, take advantage in a capitalistic society, and so the morale of the country. If there's a poll that was recently done by, I think, Breaking Points, which is a news show on YouTube, and they asked about the morale of the country. Oh, was it Breaking Points? It might have been referenced on a podcast. But anyway, they said, hey, 70-something% of Americans believe that the morale of the country is low. There's not a value system anymore. Why do you guys think? Huh? Can anybody out there guess? Because a lot of people don't believe in God anymore. A couple episodes ago, I reacted to a video where Sadhguru was talking about how people have lost the concept of heaven. When there's somebody, especially for men, I was talking to my wife about this the other day. Especially for men, but all humans, we need something that's bigger than us. Most of us. We need that thing. Something that's big, something that we can, all right, I'm not going to pass this value system. Like, I'm going to stick to this value system. I'm going to follow this because this is what I believe this is good, and I believe it'll be beneficial for me and for those around me, right? Without that, we start to construct our own value systems and our own beliefs. There's a great line, and I can't think of the movie, but it's a movie with the old guys. It's in Michigan. It's in Detroit, I think. And the guy, these young kids broke into his home, and they was trying. He had like thousands of dollars apparently, and they were trying to get it. But then they ended up finding some woman trapped in the basement, and that woman, he didn't rape her. He inputted his semen in her because she, the year before, killed his oldest daughter, and he was like, she's gonna give me my daughter back. And so it turned into this whole crazy thing because it was like, wait, we didn't even know she was here. And one of the thieves was like, well, how can you do this? I don't get it. And he's, don't, God is gonna do it. He's like, God. And I don't remember the line, but it was so good. It was one of those great movie lines. He's like, God?
You can't do this to me.
There's nothing a man cannot do once he accepts the fact that there is no God.
There's no morale when you don't believe in God. I am the morale. I set my morality, my values. And that's what's happened to us as a nation. Like we don't have a morale system that we go by anymore, which we used to, which was very necessary for us to move how we move. It guided the country. And yeah, of course there's bad things that happen because there's people that do evil things. We're not People people aren't good inherently. We do good things. We choose to. People that want to do good, we do good because we want to be seen as a good individual. But there are some people that doesn't matter to. Now, is that everybody? No. But in a country with over 300 million people, if there's 1 million bad people, that's a lot of bad people, right? But that's not the majority of people. But still, or I'm sorry, there's 1 million people that want to do bad things. That's a lot of people, you know? One of the biggest things when you look at the world, like when you look at morale, you know, something I was reading, and I reference this book a lot, I'm starting to realize, but it's because I'm reading it at the moment, 12 Rules of Life. And something interesting, I'm going to quote out of there, it says, lies, this is talking about lying, right? Lies warp the structure of being. So the human being, lies warp the structure of being. Untruth corrupts the soul and the state alike. And one form of corruption, I'm going to read that again. And one form of corruption feeds the other. And the question that I have is, do lies cause us to become more mentally ill? You know, I've never thought about it. There's a scripture in Revelations 21 which mentions that liars will also go to hell. And I've heard people preach about that, and I'm like, man, I mean, hell though, for a lie? I mean, a little white lie? You know, a white lie? Like, come on, man. We can't go to hell for a lie. But you do. Why? Because lies, if you think about it, they start to pervert your thinking, your reality. Your reality, like what's really going on in the world, is like their perception of that is perverted. Like, for example, let's say I'm a guy before I was married, whatever. Let's say I lied heavy. And I mean, I lied in my life. I'm not saying I did it. But let's say I was one of those people that I lied so much that I started believing my lies. And now it's perverted my perception. And let's say there was a girl that I liked. And I told myself, hey, she likes me. So I go up to her and she's like, hey. And I say, hey, you know, what's up? And she's like, I don't like, get away. But in my head, I've been telling myself over and over that she likes me. So she says, get away. All I hear is, come closer. I'm like, sure. All right. But you see where it can go? And that's just one example. You may say, well, that's just maybe, no, that doesn't happen in every situation. Of course, we can always focus on the extremes, the exceptions of the rule. But the thing that I'm trying to get down to here is lies, especially when you start believing your own lies, when you start lying to yourself and it starts to shape your perception of the world, that's a problem. That is a big thing. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, you know, one of the things especially when I started college, is I'd say these little white lies, these little, you know, shrug her off, just lie here, lie there. And it's crazy because this is Monday quarterbacking, of course, right? Thinking about it now, it does provide. I remember this one lie when I was, even before I graduated college, when I was younger. And I think I mentioned this on the show before. Oh no, I haven't mentioned this, but you know, people used to ask me, hey, how old were you when you came from New York, right? And I tell people, hey, I was born in New York. And because at that time I had the pride of New York, yeah, you know, New York, Brooklyn, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I think like 10, 11. Yeah, I think I was like 11, 12. Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah. I came to Florida. We moved from New York to Florida between 8 and 9 years old. But I actually started believing it. You know what happened? I remember a few years later, I'm in high school, or I'm right out of high school, and somebody asked me, and I was about to give them one of the quick, 11, 12 years old. But then I actually thought about it. I was like, wait a minute. Man, carry the one. Oh, why did I think 11 or 12? It's the lie I've been telling. The power of lies. So if you think about that, if you believe, okay, lies can create a reality that's not real, right? It could change your perception of what's going on around you. Then even before you die, you're laying a path to hell for yourself right here on earth. You're literally laying that path out. And so yeah, it makes sense why. Of course. Now Revelation 21 makes more sense to me. It's like, of course, because you're already creating hell for yourself here. Because lying, it continues to do that. So for me, to turn this chaos around, I'd start with the morale of the country. What would you think? What do you think is the one thing that we should focus on in the country to start turning it around? If you was to start with one thing, what would that thing be? Now, one thing I did forget before I end this thing, and please guys, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Help your boy out, But one thing, the whole morality, it starts with you. It starts with me. And when you start, then it radiates with the people around you. Because either they're going to start mimicking it or they're going to get away from you because they're like, you're acting weird. You're trying to be, what are you trying to do? What? Values? Dude, trying to get a quick buck. What are you talking about? But it's gonna start shaping the friends and people around you. But it starts with you. Comment below, what do you think is the one thing that we need to do as a country? One thing we can start doing as a country to turn this country back around and to continue to live the way we're living. Please like, comment below, comment with your answer, share this with your friend if you liked it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.